There are objects in this world that defy explanation, artifacts so unsettling, so steeped in mystery, that their very existence feels like a violation of history itself. They are not displayed in museums or celebrated in textbooks. Instead, they linger in shadows, passed through secret hands, locked away in vaults, or dismissed as legend. Some are said to hold knowledge far beyond their time, devices that seem to whisper of civilizations we're told never existed. Others are cursed, blamed for madness, disappearance, or disaster whenever they resurface. Each one carries a story that bends the boundaries between truth and myth, leaving us to wonder who created them and why were they hidden? Were they warning or weapons? These are not ordinary relics. They are puzzles history has chosen not to solve, enigmas that challenge our understanding of the past, and perhaps even our place in it. So prepare yourself for a journey through the forbidden and the forgotten. Sit back, clear your mind, and let's uncover 20 forbidden artifacts that shouldn't exist. In the rolling hills near Amman, Jordan, lies a site that has quietly reshaped the way we understand the earliest chapters of human civilization. Ain Ghazal, its name meaning Spring of the Gazelle, was once home to one of the largest Neolithic settlements ever discovered in the Near East. For centuries, the village lay buried beneath layers of earth, its memory erased by time until construction crews in the 1980s unearthed fragments of something remarkable. At first glance, they looked like broken statues, pieces of stone shaped into eerily human forms. But closer study revealed something far more extraordinary. Life-sized plaster figures, some with delicate details etched into their faces, others with staring eyes that seemed to follow the viewer in silence. Among them were the famous stone heads of Ain Ghazal, sculpted visages over 9,000 years old, older than the pyramids, older than the written word itself. The heads are arresting. Their features are stylized yet strangely lifelike, with high cheekbones, prominent noses, and wide almond-shaped eyes inlaid with bitumen. Some appear calm, others unsettling, their expressions hovering between serenity and otherworldliness. Many were found carefully buried in pits, sometimes alongside full statues, as if laid to rest in a ceremony whose meaning we can no longer grasp. Why were they created? And why were they buried so deliberately? Archaeologists have offered explanations rooted in anthropology and ritual. These figures may have been tied to ancestor worship, serving as symbolic guardians of the community or as representations of revered spirits. Some suggest they were used in seasonal rituals tied to fertility and survival, embodying a connection between the living and the dead. In a world where survival depended on harvests, rainfall, and the delicate balance of nature, the creation of such figures may have been both a plea and a promise, a way of shaping order in an unpredictable world. But there are elements that resist easy explanation. The sheer scale and sophistication of the Ain Ghazal statues set them apart. To craft them, Neolithic people used a mixture of plaster made from burnt limestone, applied over a core of reeds and twigs. This process required advanced knowledge of materials, chemistry, and design, an astonishing achievement for a culture without metal tools, wheels, or written records. How did they develop such techniques? And why invest such effort into works not meant to endure, but rather to be buried soon after completion? The mystery deepens when we consider the eyes. Large, wide, and haunting, they dominate the faces, drawing the viewer in. Some scholars interpret them as windows to the soul, emphasizing the figure's spiritual power. Others see them as a stylistic choice, a way of symbolizing watchfulness. Yet, one cannot stand before these eyes without feeling the unsettling impression that they are looking back across millennia. As with many ancient mysteries, speculation has reached beyond the mainstream. Some fringe interpretations suggest the statues may depict beings not entirely human, echoes perhaps of myths that recall gods descending from the heavens or visitors from distant worlds. While such ideas remain outside accepted scholarship, their persistence reflects a deeper truth. The statues provoke questions that touch on the limits of what we can explain. Could the figures represent a memory of a forgotten people, a group distinct from the villagers themselves? Might they encode myths, cosmologies, or stories now lost to time? Their burial suggests intentionality. These were not discarded objects, but offerings, or perhaps secrets meant to be hidden. Were the people of Ain Ghazal attempting to preserve something sacred? Or were they, in some way, attempting to put it to rest? What makes Ain Ghazal so haunting is the silence that surrounds it. Unlike later civilizations, the people left behind no written language to explain their beliefs, no monuments covered in inscriptions, no epic tales carved into stone. What survives are these figures, staring blankly from the earth as if they were never meant to tell their story in words. Their very existence reminds us that human history is not a straight line, but a fragmented puzzle full of gaps that leave room for wonder. Consider, too, the timing. Around 6,500 BCE, the settlement of Ain Ghazal was thriving, a sprawling community of thousands. Yet within centuries, it began to decline, its people vanishing from the archaeological record. Climate change, over-farming, or social collapse may have played a role. But could the creation and burial of these statues mark not only ritual acts, but also responses to a world on the edge of transformation? Were these figures silent witnesses to a society unraveling, their burial a symbolic farewell? Standing before the stone heads today, displayed in museums under sterile lights, it is easy to forget that they were once part of a living community, a village with laughter, struggle, and hope. They were touched by hands that carried water from the spring, that planted fields, that mourned the dead. And yet, the eyes carved into plaster still watch us with the same intensity they once held 9,000 years ago. What did the people of Ain Ghazal see when they looked into these faces? Did they see their ancestors, their gods, or perhaps a vision of themselves transformed into something more enduring? We cannot know. What we are left with is a mystery carved in stone and plaster, one that resists certainty, and in doing so, reminds us how little we truly understand about the origins of human belief, art, and imagination. Even now, as archaeologists uncover new details and refine their theories, the central question lingers. Were these statues symbols of devotion or warnings from a forgotten age? And how many more stories buried beneath the earth still wait to be unearthed? We journey southward, across deserts and along the Nile, into the heart of ancient Egypt. Here, another class of artifact awaits us. Unlike the small, delicate fragment of crystal, these objects are larger, heavier, and steeped in ritual. They speak not of vision, but of preservation, of a people who sought to defy the finality of death. In the dim chambers of Egyptian tombs, surrounded by painted walls and sealed against time, archaeologists have uncovered vessels unlike any others, the Canopic jars. Crafted from alabaster, limestone, or clay, they are striking in their simplicity and in their symbolism. Some are smooth and unadorned, their surfaces polished like pale ivory. Others bear lids carved into the heads of protective deities, falcon, jackal, baboon, and human, gazing outward with eternal vigilance. To the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end, but a passage. The body was a vessel, and its preservation was essential for the soul's eternal journey. The process of mummification was elaborate, and central to it was the careful removal of internal organs. These were not discarded, but placed reverently into canopic jars, each guarded by a divine figure. The stomach, intestines, lungs, and liver each had its place, each linked to one of the four sons of Horus. The heart, curiously, was often left within the body, considered the seat of thought and emotion. From a purely historical perspective, canopic jars appear as a logical part of a deeply spiritual practice. They embody the Egyptian obsession with the afterlife, their belief that life extended far beyond the tomb. But when examined more closely, these jars raise questions that linger even today. Why this precise ritual? Why these particular organs? And why entrust them to symbolic guardians whose meanings we still struggle to fully decipher? Some Egyptologists argue that the choice was practical. The organs most likely to decay were removed to better preserve the body. Yet, if practicality alone dictated the process, why the elaborate spiritual framework? Why imbue each jar with its own protective deity, and why align them with the cardinal directions, as if creating a spiritual compass? There is also the curious matter of technique. The Egyptians, thousands of years ago, developed methods of preservation so advanced that modern science has only recently begun to replicate them. Their use of salts, resins, and oils, combined with precise anatomical knowledge, suggests an understanding far beyond what one might expect from a Bronze Age society. How did they come by this knowledge? Was it the product of generations of trial and error, or did it reflect a deeper, perhaps lost tradition of science and medicine? The canopic jars themselves sometimes complicate the story further. In some tombs, jars have been discovered empty, beautifully crafted, ritually placed, yet containing no organs at all. Were these symbolic substitutes? Or does this point to a variation in practice that we have yet to fully grasp? Some scholars suggest these dummy jars were created during later periods when embalming techniques changed. Others wonder whether the jars were never meant to hold physical organs at all, but rather something immaterial, a fragment of the Ka, the spiritual essence. More speculative theories move further into mystery. Could these vessels, with their careful alignment and divine guardianship, have served a purpose beyond preservation? Were they containers not only of flesh, but of memory, energy, or something the Egyptians believed must be safeguarded for eternity? The question deepens when we consider the inscriptions. Many canopic jars bear spells from the Book of the Dead, invocations meant to protect the deceased in their perilous journey through the underworld. In this sense, the jars are not merely storage. They are talismans, infused with power through word and symbol. Did the Egyptians believe that the jars themselves became protectors, standing watch over the soul long after the tomb was sealed? Some fringe interpretations have gone further still, suggesting that the jars could be viewed as a kind of ancient technology, objects designed not only to preserve but to transform. In this view, the organs placed inside were not simply safeguarded but processed, altered for use in some metaphysical or even energetic sense. While such theories remain unproven, they reflect the enduring fascination these artifacts inspire, inviting us to look at them not just as containers, but as mysteries in their own right. And then there is the symbolism of the four sons of Horus, each represented on the jar lids: Imseti, Hapi, Duamutef, and Kebehsenwef. Together, they protected the body, but they also reflected cosmic order, bound to the directions of the earth and the elements of existence. Was this a symbolic map of the universe as the Egyptians understood it? A miniature cosmology sealed into every tomb? Today, canopic jars rest in museums around the world, displayed behind glass, their lids often staring blankly into space. Stripped of their ritual context, they appear as art objects, examples of craftsmanship from a distant past. But in their original setting, deep within tombs sealed against eternity, they were more than that. They were guardians, vessels of power, and silent witnesses to one of the most profound mysteries of human culture: the belief that death is not an end, but a doorway. As we stand before them now, we are left with questions that refuse to settle. Were the Canopic jars purely ritual vessels, reflections of a symbolic worldview? Or do they hint at a deeper understanding of body and spirit, one that we have only begun to rediscover? And if these jars were meant to protect not just the dead, but something greater, something yet beyond our comprehension, then what knowledge, what wisdom still lies buried in the sands of Egypt waiting to be revealed? From the stone jars of ancient Egypt, silent guardians of the afterlife, we cross an ocean and step into another world of mystery. Deep in the jungles of Mesoamerica, the Maya built vast cities of stone, aligned with the heavens, adorned with carvings that still whisper fragments of their beliefs. And among the few relics of their written legacy, one stands apart. A book, fragile yet enduring, known today as the Dresden Codex. Unlike the cold permanence of stone, the Codex is a work of paper and ink, a rare survivor of fire and conquest. Created from the bark of the ficus tree and coated with a thin layer of lime to form smooth pages, it unfolds like an accordion, 11 feet long when fully extended, covered on both sides with glyphs and images. Painted in vivid red, black, and turquoise, the figures seem alive even now. Gods with serpent headdresses, celestial charts, tables of rituals and offerings. It is one of only 4 known Maya codices to survive the flames of the Spanish conquest. Countless others, entire libraries of ancient knowledge, were reduced to ash in the 16th century, when missionaries sought to erase what they deemed pagan. The Dresden Codex, preserved by chance, is a remnant of a silenced tradition, a single thread in a tapestry that once stretched across centuries. Mainstream scholarship views the Codex as a book of astronomy, ritual, and divination. Its pages record lunar cycles, eclipses, planetary movements, and the rhythms of Venus, the bright planet the Maya watched with extraordinary care. For them, time itself was sacred, woven into patterns of creation and destruction. The Codex was both calendar and prophecy, guiding priests in ceremonies that aligned human life with the cosmos. Yet, within its symbols lies a depth that invites questions. The mathematical precision is staggering. Eclipse tables accurate to within minutes. Venus cycles tracked with a sophistication rivaling early European astronomy. How did the Maya achieve such accuracy without telescopes, without modern instruments? Was this the result of generations of careful observation? Or does it hint at a deeper, perhaps forgotten, reservoir of knowledge? Some researchers see the Codex as evidence of a scientific tradition embedded in myth. The gods and symbols may cloak what is, at its core, a record of empirical data. Others argue that we should not separate science from spirituality, that for the Maya, the two were one, and the Codex reflects a worldview where numbers, stars, and gods were inseparable. But there are elements that remain enigmatic. Certain passages seem less like calendars and more like warnings, predictions of floods, droughts, or cosmic upheavals. Did the Maya believe they could foresee cataclysm through celestial signs? Or were these simply cycles of myth, stories meant to explain the unpredictable forces of nature? Some fringe interpretations go further still. The Codex has been linked, often controversially, to modern theories of world-ending prophecies, most famously the misinterpreted 2012 phenomenon. While scholars have dismissed the idea that the Maya predicted the end of the world, the association speaks to a deeper fascination. The belief that this ancient book may contain truths about time itself, truths that reach beyond the boundaries of our own understanding. And yet, perhaps the greatest mystery of the Dresden Codex is not what we can read, but what we cannot. Despite decades of study, large portions of the glyphs remain only partially understood. Their meanings are tantalizingly out of reach, as though the book still guards its secrets? Are we glimpsing fragments of lost histories, records of forgotten kings, or instructions for rituals no longer practiced? Or does the Codex contain knowledge we would not even recognize, insights into cycles of time, mathematics, or the cosmos that we have yet to rediscover? Imagine a Maya priest unfolding the Codex in a torch-lit chamber, tracing the glyphs with a hand trained to read the stars. For him, these were not abstract symbols, but living truths, maps of the universe, guides for survival, perhaps even instructions for communicating with the divine. When we look at the same pages today, under the bright lights of a museum or in a digitized facsimile, what do we fail to see? The Codex now rests far from its place of origin, in the library of Dresden, Germany, carried across oceans, divorced from the culture that created it. There is an irony here. A book designed to align humanity with cosmic cycles has itself become displaced, torn from its own cycle of use. It is an artifact of survival, but also of loss, reminding us of the countless voices and volumes that were silenced alongside it. And so the Dresden Codex remains what it has always been, a bridge between the known and the unknown. It tells us much about the Maya, yet withholds more. It is at once a calendar, a ritual manual, an astronomical guide, and a mystery. What else lies within those painted pages, still unread, still untranslated? Are we holding only a fragment of the truth, with the rest hidden in codices lost to fire? And if so, what knowledge, what warnings, what visions of time itself vanished when those flames consumed the libraries of a civilization? From the painted glyphs of the Maya, where gods and stars intertwine in the folds of bark paper, we traveled to the rolling hills of northern Italy. Here, centuries before Rome rose to dominance, another civilization flourished, mysterious, sophisticated, and still only partly understood. The Etruscans left behind tombs, bronzes, and frescoes, but perhaps their most enigmatic legacy lies in an artifact unearthed in 1877 in a field near the town of Piacenza, a bronze model of a liver. At first glance, it is a curious object, roughly the size of a human hand, shaped unmistakably like the organ itself. Its surface is not smooth, but divided into 44 distinct sections, each carefully inscribed with words in the Etruscan language. Around its edge, names of deities appear, gods of the sky, of earth, of the underworld. It is at once anatomical and divine, material and symbolic. Archaeologists quickly recognized what it was: a hepatoscopy model, a tool for divination. The Etruscans believed the gods communicated through signs, and that the liver of a sacrificed animal, most often a sheep, was a mirror of the cosmos itself. Priests, known as haruspices, would examine its shape, color, and markings, interpreting divine will from its features. The bronze liver of Piacenza, then, was likely a teaching device, a map of the heavens encoded in the form of flesh. The idea may sound strange to modern ears, yet for the Etruscans it was a serious practice, a science of the sacred. To them, the universe was a web of divine forces, and the liver, seat of life and blood, was the key to understanding it. Each inscribed section corresponded to a deity or power, forming a celestial chart. When a priest held an animal's liver in his hands, he was holding, in miniature, the structure of the universe itself. And yet, much remains uncertain. The Etruscan language is only partially understood, and many of the names on the Piacenza liver resist precise translation. Who were all these gods? What roles did they play in the Etruscan cosmos? Was the liver merely a ritual object, or did it encode deeper astronomical or mathematical knowledge? Some scholars suggest that the divisions on the bronze model reflect the sky itself, a kind of star map segmented into regions ruled by different deities. Others see it as a symbolic compass, aligning human ritual with cosmic order. If this is true, then the liver is more than a teaching aid. It is a representation of the universe, hidden in the shape of an organ. More speculative interpretations have suggested that the artifact may preserve knowledge inherited from older, perhaps Eastern traditions. Hepatoscopy was practiced in Mesopotamia long before the Etruscans. Clay models of livers, similarly inscribed with divine names, have been found in Babylon. Did the practice travel westward, carried by traders, migrants, or priests, and take root in Italy? If so, the Piacenza liver is not just an Etruscan artifact, but a fragment of a far older tradition, a thread in the fabric of humanity's attempt to read the divine in the natural world. And still, the mystery deepens. Why the liver? Why did multiple ancient cultures see this organ as the key to understanding fate and the will of the gods? Was it merely symbolic, chosen for its central role in life and blood? Or did they perceive something more, patterns in its structure, echoes of a cosmic design mirrored in the body itself? The artifact also raises unsettling questions about knowledge lost. The Romans inherited much from the Etruscans, including aspects of divination. Yet by the time the empire expanded, the deeper meaning of these practices was already fading, their origins obscured. What other insights, once held by Etruscan priests, vanished with the decline of their civilization? Could the bronze liver be a silent remnant of a system of thought far more complex than we imagine? One that bridged anatomy, astronomy, and theology in ways we have yet to grasp. In a museum case, the Piacenza liver may look inert, an odd curiosity. But to the Etruscans, it was alive with meaning, a portable cosmos, a map of communication between humanity and the divine. And when we look at it now, we are faced with an unsettling thought. What if this artifact reflects a worldview that we can no longer reconstruct? A worldview where the boundaries between body, sky, and spirit dissolved into a single reality? The Etruscan civilization remains, even today, one of the great enigmas of the ancient Mediterranean. We know them through fragments, tombs painted with banquets, bronzes cast in elegant detail, inscriptions carved in a language we only partly read. The bronze liver of Piacenza adds another fragment, one that hints at a system of knowledge that has not fully reached us. Was it simply a ritual aid, a teaching tool for priests? Or was it, in some sense, a coded artifact, a diagram of cosmic forces, preserved in bronze for reasons we may never completely uncover? And as we stand before it, considering its divided surface and the names of forgotten gods, we are left with the same quiet question that echoes through so many ancient mysteries. How much of the past remains hidden, locked not in stone or metal, but in ways of thinking that time itself has erased? From the bronze liver of Piacenza, an organ transfigured into a cosmic map, we travel back further still to the cradle of civilization itself. In the ancient land of Sumer, where the first cities rose from the Mesopotamian plain, another extraordinary artifact was created. Not bronze nor stone, but clay, shaped into massive cylinders, inscribed with thousands of delicate cuneiform signs. These are the Gudea cylinders, among the largest clay inscriptions ever found. Discovered in the ruins of Lagash in modern-day southern Iraq, the cylinders stand nearly 2 feet tall, their curved surfaces densely covered in text. At first glance, they may seem like little more than oversized tablets, yet their scale and detail set them apart. They were commissioned by Gudea, a ruler of Lagash around 2125 BCE, and together they preserve one of the most extensive single inscriptions from the ancient world. The text tells a story, how the god Ningirsu appeared to Gudea in a dream, commanding him to build a temple. Guided by visions and divine instruction, Gudea embarked on the monumental task of constructing the Ninu temple, dedicating it to his city's patron deity. The cylinders describe not only the dream itself, but the rituals, offerings, and immense labor that followed. From a historical perspective, the Gudea cylinders are a window into the spiritual and political life of early Mesopotamia. They illustrate the intimate bond between kingship and divinity, showing how rulers legitimized their power through direct communion with the gods. They reveal details of temple architecture, ritual practice, and even glimpses of daily life. To scholars, they are priceless records of a world long gone. But like so many ancient artifacts, they invite questions that extend beyond the accepted narrative. Why create such immense inscriptions when smaller tablets would have sufficed? Was their size symbolic, intended to impress upon both gods and men the magnitude of the project? Or did the very shape of the cylinders carry a deeper meaning, perhaps echoing cosmological beliefs, or representing eternal cycles encoded in clay? The dream of Gudea itself adds another layer of intrigue. Dreams were sacred in Mesopotamia, often seen as channels of divine communication. But the level of detail in this account is unusual. Gudea describes the god Ningirsu's instructions with remarkable clarity, as if the vision was more than symbolic. Was this merely a literary flourish, a way of elevating his authority? Or did Gudea experience something he believed to be an authentic revelation, an encounter that transcended ordinary perception? Some researchers have pointed to the cylinders as evidence of an advanced system of religious psychology, a codified method by which rulers entered altered states of consciousness, interpreting visions as divine orders. Others speculate more broadly, were these dreams encoded rituals of contact, not only with gods, but perhaps with something the Sumerians understood as otherworldly? The language of the cylinders also presents curious challenges. Though written in Sumerian, certain phrases resist clear translation. Are these simply poetic flourishes or fragments of specialized vocabulary, perhaps technical or ritual terms, whose full meaning has been lost? Could they conceal layers of knowledge we no longer have the context to decode? What is certain is the extraordinary detail with which the cylinders describe the temple itself. Dimensions, materials, and symbolic features are carefully noted. Some scholars argue that the text preserves not just myth, but architectural blueprints, encoding in words the design of a structure aligned to both earthly and celestial order. If so, then the Gudea cylinders are more than historical narrative. They are technical documents, bridging the boundary between religion and engineering. More speculative theories have gone further. Could the cylinders represent an attempt to preserve knowledge in permanent form on a scale meant to endure beyond generations? Clay tablets are fragile, but these great cylinders, dense and monumental, were built to last. Was Gudea consciously creating a message not only for his people, but for the distant future? Inscriptions intended to outlive civilizations? And if so, what message was he leaving? A record of faith, a testimony of power, or perhaps a coded legacy of knowledge far deeper than we recognize? Like the Etruscan liver, the Gudea cylinders suggest a worldview where the human, the divine, and the cosmic were inseparable. To read them today is to glimpse a world where kings were dreamers, temples were cosmic machines, and clay was not just earth, but eternity pressed into form. Yet, despite all we know, much remains unclear. We can translate the words, trace the outlines of the story, but the spirit behind them, the lived experience of those who crafted, read, and revered these cylinders, remains elusive. Were they truly the record of one ruler's vision, or part of a larger, perhaps older, tradition of preserving divine contact in writing? And if dreams were the gateway through which Gudea claimed to hear the voice of the gods, how many other rulers, priests, or civilizations across time might have looked to the unseen world for guidance, and left behind records that, like these cylinders, challenge the boundaries of history. The Gudea cylinders now rest in Paris, far from the soil of Lagash, their inscriptions studied, photographed, and catalogued. Yet, as with so many ancient artifacts, their meaning feels incomplete. They are, at once, among the most detailed texts of early civilization and among the most mysterious. What else did Gudea see in that dream? What did the god reveal that words could not capture, or that scribes chose not to record? And how many other visions, etched into clay or carved into stone, still lie buried beneath the Mesopotamian earth, waiting to be brought to light? From the vast clay cylinders of Sumer, where dreams were pressed into words for the gods and future generations, we now turn eastward, toward another ancient civilization whose messages are carved in silence. On the dusty plains of the Indus Valley, buried beneath the earth of present-day Pakistan and northwest India, lie thousands of small, square seals. They fit easily into the palm of a hand, yet the mysteries they hold are far larger than their size would suggest. Each seal, usually made of steatite and baked to a durable finish, carries a combination of images and inscriptions. Animals are the most common: humped bulls with sweeping horns, elephants, rhinoceroses, and strange composite creatures that seem to blur the line between natural and mythical. Above these images, a sequence of symbols is carefully incised, signs that belong to what scholars call the Indus script. The seals are believed to date from around 2600 to 1900 BCE, during the height of the Harappan or Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's earliest urban cultures. This was a society remarkable for its planned cities, sophisticated drainage systems, standardized weights and measures, and extensive trade networks. And yet, despite the civilization's scale and influence, we know astonishingly little about its language, its social structure, or even its beliefs. The seals should have been the key. They appear to function like stamps, used to mark goods or documents, suggesting they played a role in trade, administration, or ownership. But the inscriptions remain undeciphered. Unlike Sumerian or Egyptian writing, which scholars painstakingly cracked using bilingual texts, the Indus script offers no such Rosetta Stone. The symbols, over 400 of them, appear in short sequences, too brief to provide clear patterns. Are they a language at all, or a symbolic system without phonetic meaning? Here lies one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. Some scholars argue that the script represents a spoken language, perhaps a distant ancestor of Dravidian tongues still spoken in southern India today. If so, then the seals may preserve the earliest written words of a linguistic tradition that continues unbroken into the present. Others contend the symbols may not correspond to speech at all, but to religious or ritual markers, icons meant to invoke authority, belief, or identity rather than literal words. And then there are the images themselves. The animals carved on the seals are often strikingly detailed, but certain figures defy easy explanation. The most famous is known as the Pashupati seal, which depicts a horned figure seated cross-legged, surrounded by animals. To some, this is an early prototype of the Hindu god Shiva, Lord of Beasts. If true, it would push the roots of Hinduism back thousands of years earlier than previously thought. Others see in the figure not a deity but a shaman, or perhaps a symbolic ruler embodying both human and animal qualities. Were these seals simply tools of commerce, practical devices for marking goods along trade routes that stretched from Mesopotamia to Central Asia? Or were they sacred tokens, imbued with religious significance, connecting merchants and priests to the unseen forces that governed life? The unanswered questions grow deeper still. Why has the script resisted all attempts at translation? Is it because we lack enough examples? Or could it be that the system itself was never meant to be read in the way we read writing today? Might it represent something entirely different? An ancient code of symbols whose meaning was clear to its creators, but opaque to us. Some researchers have even entertained more speculative theories. Could the brevity of the inscriptions suggest they were not full sentences, but something akin to digital signatures or identifiers? Were the Harappans encoding data in ways unfamiliar to us, systems that blur the boundary between writing and symbolic computation? Others note the uncanny similarities between Indus seals and artifacts from other ancient cultures. Seal impressions from Mesopotamia, for example, show parallel methods of marking goods. Could there have been shared influences across these vast regions? If so, did the Indus people borrow, innovate, or perhaps contribute to traditions that shaped the earliest written communication? Yet, despite decades of research, the seals remain mute. Archaeologists uncover them in city ruins: Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Dholavira, each discovery adding another piece to the puzzle, but never the solution. They are scattered fragments of a voice we can see but cannot hear. Perhaps that silence is the greatest mystery of all. The Harappans built cities with astonishing order and complexity. They traded across continents, crafted jewelry of delicate beauty, and engineered systems that rivaled later civilizations. And yet, when their culture declined around 1900 BCE, they left no epic texts, no decipherable inscriptions, no grand monuments covered in readable script. Only these small seals, each one whispering in a language that no one alive today can understand. What did they say? Were they simple markers of ownership? This belongs to me? Or prayers to the divine? Protect this offering? Or perhaps they carried messages we cannot even begin to imagine, instructions, philosophies, even histories now lost to time. The Indus Valley seals stand as a reminder of how much of the human story remains untold. They show us that even the most advanced civilizations can vanish into obscurity, leaving behind objects that tantalize us with meaning just out of reach. And so we are left to wonder, are these seals silent by accident or by design? Did the Harappans intend their words to be impermanent, their meanings reserved only for those who walked their streets and lived their lives? Or is the key still waiting to be found, hidden beneath layers of earth, waiting for the moment when the past will finally reveal its voice? From the small, enigmatic seals of the Indus Valley, tokens of a civilization whose voice has largely been lost to time, we turn northwest, across centuries and seas, to the windswept shores of eastern England. Here, in the sand and soil of Suffolk, a discovery was made that would redefine our understanding of the early medieval world. Beneath a burial mound, carefully hidden for more than 1,000 years, lay treasures of gold and iron, objects of power and prestige, and among them, a helmet unlike any other, the Helmet of Sutton Hoo. At first glance, it is a piece of war gear, an iron mask, curved to fit the head, with a faceplate shaped in stylized contours and adorned with delicate, intricate patterns. But closer inspection reveals an artistry that is far beyond mere protection. Every rivet, every strip of gold, every etched design speaks of a culture at the intersection of practicality and symbolism. Animal motifs crawl along the brow and cheek plates, serpents and birds intertwined in patterns both elegant and fearsome. To wear it was to command attention, to signal status, and perhaps to embody something greater than oneself. The helmet was part of a burial ship, an elaborate tomb containing a wealth of treasures that belonged to an unknown Anglo-Saxon king or nobleman, dating to the early 7th century CE. For archaeologists, Sutton Hoo offers a window into the nascent English kingdoms, a glimpse of a society emerging from the shadows of the Roman collapse, asserting identity, power, and artistry in the north. Yet the helmet raises questions that go far beyond history or craftsmanship. Its form is unique, unlike other contemporary helmets, and the level of decoration suggests more than mere ornamentation. Were these designs symbolic, telling stories of conquest and lineage, or did they carry protective or spiritual significance, serving as a bridge between the wearer and the unseen forces believed to govern life and death? Mainstream scholarship interprets the helmet as a ceremonial object, a combination of martial utility and status symbol. But the precision and style of its construction suggest extraordinary knowledge of metallurgy and artistry. The iron core, carefully hammered and riveted, is complemented by gold and tinned bronze elements, a feat that required skills few could master. How did a culture in early medieval England achieve such synthesis of art and engineering? Was it a reflection of indigenous skill or the result of influence from far-off lands, perhaps Scandinavia or even the Mediterranean? Some researchers have speculated that the helmet's motifs were more than decorative. The birds and serpents could represent protective spirits, guiding the warrior in battle and beyond. The faceplate, when viewed from certain angles, seems almost alive, giving the impression of a second, divine identity layered over the mortal wearer. Was this a literal mask of power, meant to transform the human into something more? A guardian, a symbol of kingship, or even a conduit to the spiritual realm? And then there is the question of context. The helmet was found within a burial mound, inside a ship laden with treasures. Gold coins, ceremonial cups, ornate shoulder clasps, and weapons of the finest craftsmanship. The entire arrangement suggests careful planning, almost ritualistic intent. Was the helmet placed deliberately in a sacred alignment? Did the Anglo-Saxons see in it a key to the afterlife, a vessel of identity preserved for eternity? Some fringe interpretations have suggested that Sutton Hoo, and the helmet specifically, reflect knowledge or influences not typically attributed to early medieval England. Certain motifs echo designs found in Scandinavian and continental art, and the intricacy of the metalwork challenges assumptions about the technological capabilities of the period. Could this helmet hint at a network of shared knowledge and artistry stretching across Europe, connecting cultures through symbols, metallurgy, and spiritual practice? Yet for all its artistry, much about the helmet remains unknowable. The identity of the man it belonged to is debated. The meanings of the symbolic patterns are speculative. The precise methods of its creation remain partially hidden in the craft of long-dead smiths. And when we consider the helmet in its original state, polished, gleaming, and worn in ceremonies or perhaps in battle, it becomes more than an artifact. It is a touchpoint between history, artistry, and mystery, a vessel carrying the aspirations, fears, and beliefs of a vanished world. Standing before the Sutton Hoo helmet today, one is struck not only by its beauty, but by its resonance across time. It embodies power, artistry, and the enigmatic mind of a culture that existed at the crossroads of memory and myth. It reminds us that artifacts are never merely objects. They are the preserved traces of human thought, imagination, and spiritual practice, offering glimpses into realities that are forever beyond complete understanding. Was the helmet simply a symbol of earthly authority, or did it serve a purpose we can barely comprehend, connecting the wearer to forces unseen, protecting the spirit in life and after death? And as we examine its delicate etchings and bold forms, we are left with the same quiet question that threads through all these forbidden artifacts. How much of human ingenuity, belief, and mystery remains buried, waiting for discovery? The Helmet of Sutton Hoo, though silent, speaks across centuries. And in its silence, it challenges us to consider not only the history we can reconstruct, but the histories that have been lost, hidden, or deliberately concealed, waiting for those willing to look beyond what seems possible. From the windswept burial mounds of Sutton Hoo where the Anglo-Saxons enshrined power, artistry, and perhaps spiritual authority in iron and gold, we move southward across the Aegean Sea to the rocky hills of Mycenae in the Peloponnesus of Greece. It is here, amidst the ruins of a city that once dominated the Late Bronze Age, that a discovery was made which would forever alter our perception of early Greek civilization. A golden funerary mask, delicate yet striking, known today as the Mask of Agamemnon. The mask is small, barely the size of a human face, yet it exudes an almost uncanny presence. Hammered from a single sheet of gold, its features are simple but hauntingly lifelike. A serene brow, a carefully defined nose, hollowed eyes that seem to look beyond the present, and a faint, enigmatic smile. The surface shimmers even now under museum lights, catching them as if holding on to some memory of fire, ritual, or eternity. Discovered in 1876 by the archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, the mask lay in one of the royal tombs of Mycenae, known as Grave Circle A burial complex reserved for the elite of the city. Schliemann, influenced by Homer's Iliad, famously believed the mask to belong to Agamemnon, the legendary king who led the Greeks against Troy. While modern scholarship disputes this identification, the mask remains a profound symbol of a civilization both real and mythic, a bridge between history and legend. At first glance, it seems purely funerary, a mask intended to cover the face of the deceased, preserving likeness and identity, perhaps aiding the soul's journey into the afterlife. Yet the artistry raises questions that extend beyond ritual. The proportions of the face are delicate and balanced. The technique required to shape gold so thinly and evenly without tearing or creasing suggests skills of craftsmanship remarkable for its time. How did artisans of the 16th century BCE achieve such precision long before modern tools and methods? The mask also invites speculation about its symbolic meaning. Was it intended merely as a memorial, an attempt to preserve the individual's visage for eternity? Or did the gold itself carry power, its lustrous, imperishable quality believed to protect the wearer in the afterlife? In many ancient cultures, gold was more than decoration. It was divine, eternal, incorruptible. Could this small sheet of metal have been considered a conduit between the mortal and the divine, a medium for the soul's journey beyond death? Some researchers have noted that the stylization of the mask, particularly the enigmatic smile and the hollowed eyes, suggests a dual purpose. It is at once personal and universal, individual and archetypal. Did the Mycenaeans intend for the mask to represent a specific ruler, or an idealized kingly form, an emblem of authority and continuity for the entire culture? Could it have been both, a portrait and a symbol, functioning simultaneously on multiple planes of meaning? The context of its discovery deepens the mystery. The tombs of Mycenae contained multiple burials, layered and sometimes disturbed over generations. Gold ornaments, weapons, jewelry, and other masks were found alongside skeletal remains. Were these items arranged with deliberate ritual precision, marking hierarchies, lineage, or even cosmic order? Or were they intended to impress, to signal wealth and power, a message to the living as much as to the dead? Schliemann's interpretations, later criticized for their enthusiasm and at times for ignoring archaeological rigor, have nonetheless shaped popular imagination. For generations, the Mask of Agamemnon has been seen as a direct link to Homeric legend, a tangible face of myth. Yet this very connection raises questions. Does the mask reflect historical truth, a ceremonial object, or the projection of later expectations upon the past? More speculative theories stretch further into mystery. Some suggest the mask could encode symbolic or ritual knowledge, hidden meanings in its proportions, design, or placement within the tomb. Others wonder if the mask was intended as a psychic or spiritual interface, a tool through which the deceased could communicate with the living, or even a device to focus ancestral or divine presence within the burial chamber. Its lifelike expression continues to fascinate. The subtlety of the features, especially when viewed under shifting light, conveys a presence that is difficult to define. Was this a deliberate artistic choice, or the product of serendipitous skill? Could the mask have been designed to evoke recognition, respect, or even fear, bridging the realms of the living and the dead in a single silent gesture? Even today, as it rests in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, the mask exerts a quiet power. Scholars and visitors alike are drawn to its gaze, wondering about the individual beneath it, the culture that produced it, and the intentions that guided its creation. The Mask of Agamemnon is at once a historical object, a work of art, and a mystery, one of those artifacts that seems to carry knowledge beyond what we can comprehend. And so we are left to ponder. Did the mask serve simply as a funerary object, or was it a vessel of identity, memory, and perhaps even spiritual energy? Was the person who wore it remembered only as a mortal or as an archetype, a symbol for a people and a culture striving for permanence against the eroding passage of time? The Mask of Agamemnon does not answer these questions. Instead, it holds them, delicately balanced in gold, for us to contemplate across millennia. It invites us to consider the possibility that even in the Bronze Age, humans were creating objects that transcended mere function, objects that reached toward eternity, imagination, and mystery. And in that quiet reflection, we are reminded that much of the past remains hidden, waiting for the careful eye to discover what was once known and what perhaps can never be fully understood. From the gilded visage of the Mask of Agamemnon, an artifact that bridges myth and history, we return to the lands of Egypt, where the desert meets the Nile and civilizations etched their knowledge into stone, papyrus, and the very sands themselves. Here, hidden among the countless scrolls and fragments preserved through millennia, lies a map unlike any other, the Turin Papyrus Map. Unlike the funerary splendor of a golden mask, the Turin Papyrus Map is fragile, unassuming, yet astonishing in its purpose and precision. It is a piece of papyrus, just over a meter long, its surface covered in intricate lines, symbols, and annotations. On it, mountains, quarries, and streams are depicted with meticulous care. It is widely regarded as the oldest known topographical and geological map in existence, a guide not merely to locations, but to resources, strategy, and perhaps even hidden knowledge. The map dates to the reign of Ramesses IV, around 1150 BCE, during Egypt's New Kingdom, a time of wealth, trade, and monumental construction. Scholars believe it was created for the purpose of locating deposits of gold and other valuable minerals in the Wadi Hammamat, a harsh desert valley east of the Nile. Its detail is remarkable. Hills are shaded to indicate slope, streams are drawn with precision, and notations describe the quality and size of gold deposits. This is not art for art's sake. It is a functional, practical document, yet one imbued with foresight, accuracy, and purpose. Even so, the Turin Papyrus Map is more than a mere survey. Its creators understood the landscape with astonishing clarity. For a civilization operating thousands of years before modern cartography, the depiction of elevation, distance, and resource value is precise. The map suggests knowledge not only of the terrain, but of methods for measurement, observation, and recording that rival later techniques. How did ancient Egyptian engineers and scribes achieve such accuracy without the tools we consider essential today? Could this represent an ancient mastery of surveying or something more intuitive, guided by observation honed over generations? The annotations themselves are intriguing. They describe locations of gold, quarries, and stone deposits in terms that blend technical specificity with practical instruction. Yet certain markings resist easy interpretation. Were these additional directions, encoded symbols, or even indications of sacred or protected sites? Did the scribes intend the map solely for miners and officials, or was it also a guide for initiates into specialized knowledge, an intersection of practical and esoteric understanding? Some researchers have proposed that the Turin Papyrus Map represents one of the earliest examples of humans trying to translate the three-dimensional world into two dimensions with scientific intent. Others suggest that its creators may have embedded symbolic information alongside the practical, reflecting a worldview in which natural resources, geography, and divine favor were inseparable. The map is, after all, a product of a culture that believed gods were active in all aspects of life, in the Nile's floods, in the deserts beyond, and in the veins of precious metals hidden beneath the earth. Yet the map also raises tantalizing mysteries. Certain details suggest knowledge of geology that seems far ahead of its time. Distinctions between types of rock, indications of gold purity, and pathways through treacherous terrain. Was this the result of painstaking fieldwork accumulated over generations, or does it hint at observational methods lost to history? Could the Egyptians have possessed a deeper, perhaps even technical, understanding of mineralogy that we are only beginning to rediscover? The Turin Papyrus Map also invites speculation about secrecy and restricted knowledge. Maps, even today, carry power. They are tools of navigation, strategy, and control. In ancient Egypt, a map of gold deposits would have been an object of immense value, perhaps restricted to the pharaoh and select officials. Were there other maps like this, lost to time, documenting knowledge that was meant to be preserved but hidden from public view? Could the survival of this single papyrus hint at a larger system of resource management and surveying now lost to history? Moreover, the map challenges our assumptions about the sophistication of ancient societies. We often think of early civilizations in terms of monumental architecture and ceremonial display, but here is evidence of practical, analytical thinking, an ability to observe, record, and communicate complex information. And yet, despite its utilitarian nature, the map possesses an aesthetic quality. The careful lines, the shading of hills, the balance of space, all suggest a harmony between utility and artistry. Was this an accidental elegance, or a reflection of a worldview in which function and beauty were inseparable? As we study the Turin Papyrus Map today, preserved under controlled conditions in the Museo Egizio in Turin, we are struck by its quiet power. Unlike the Mask of Agamemnon, it does not dazzle with gold or elaborate decoration. Instead, it speaks softly across millennia, whispering of deserts traversed, quarries mined, and the subtle genius of scribes who sought to capture the world on fragile sheets of papyrus. And yet, much remains uncertain. Are there elements we fail to understand? Subtle notations that encode lost methods of surveying or hidden knowledge of the landscape? Did the map serve merely as a practical tool, or was it also a bridge to something more, an interface between human observation, natural law, and divine order? The Turin Papyrus Map reminds us that knowledge can take many forms. It is at once practical, scientific, and mysterious, a document of a civilization that understood not only its environment, but also the value of recording that understanding with precision and care. As we reflect on this ancient map, we are left with the same enduring question that follows every forbidden artifact. How much of human ingenuity and insight has been lost to time, and what other secrets might still be hidden in the fragments, maps, and texts of civilizations long vanished? From the fragile sheets of the Turin Papyrus, which record the passage of dynasties and the careful reckoning of time, we turn eastward once more across deserts and mountains to the ancient city of Babylon. Amid its ruins, archaeologists uncovered a small yet extraordinary object. Cylindrical, baked from clay, inscribed with a text that speaks of conquest, law, and the intricate relationship between king and people. This is the Cyrus Cylinder, a document that has captured the imagination of historians, politicians, and scholars for over a century. At first glance, the artifact seems modest, just under 8 inches long, its surface densely covered with cuneiform script. But this small cylinder carries a narrative far larger than its dimensions suggest. Created in 539 BCE, after Cyrus the Great of Persia captured Babylon, the text records the king's proclamation regarding his rule and policies. It is, in essence, a statement of authority and legitimacy, an artifact intended to announce not only conquest but restoration, governance, and divine favor. The Cyrus Cylinder is remarkable for its content and tone. Unlike the brutal edicts or proclamations typical of conquest, the text emphasizes Cyrus's respect for the peoples and gods of Babylon. He declares that he restored temples, returned displaced populations to their homelands, and allowed exiled communities to resume their religious practices. To many, this represents an early example of enlightened rulership, a code of tolerance written into clay. Yet beyond its historical and political significance lies a deeper, more enigmatic dimension. The language of the cylinder is formal, ritualized, and filled with references to divine guidance. Cyrus presents his authority as sanctioned by Marduk, the chief Babylonian deity, suggesting that political power was inseparable from religious legitimacy. Did Cyrus truly follow these principles out of conviction, or were they carefully crafted words designed to consolidate authority? And if the latter, what does this reveal about the interplay between narrative, power, and perception in the ancient world? The cylinder also invites reflection on the nature of historical memory. Its discovery in 1879, buried beneath the remains of Babylon, connects us directly to a moment over 2.5 millennia old. The text itself was meant to be read by priests and officials, perhaps never intended to survive in perpetuity. Yet here it is, preserved against the odds, a testament to the human desire to record, proclaim, and justify actions. What other proclamations, decrees, and accounts of rulers have been lost to time, leaving only fragments to hint at the worlds they governed? Some scholars have interpreted the Cyrus Cylinder as the first charter of human rights, a bold, if anachronistic, comparison. It emphasizes restoration, justice, and tolerance in ways unusual for the era. Others caution that it should be seen within its context, a tool of statecraft and propaganda, reflecting the ideals of kingship rather than an abstract code of ethics. And yet, whether genuine policy or political theater, the cylinder resonates across time, raising questions about governance, morality, and the recording of history. The form of the artifact itself also holds significance. A cylinder, rather than a tablet, allows for inscription all around, creating a continuous narrative that can be rolled, stored, or displayed. This method was common in Mesopotamia for royal inscriptions, but it adds a tactile, physical dimension to the text. It is not simply read, but handled, rotated, and presented as an object of authority. Did the shape of the cylinder serve a symbolic function, perhaps representing completeness or eternity? Or was it a practical method of ensuring the durability of the message? Even the specifics of its content spark intriguing questions. The text describes the repatriation of populations and the restoration of religious centers. Archaeological evidence confirms some of these actions, but many details remain ambiguous. Which exiles returned home? Which temples were rebuilt? And what of the voices of those who experienced this transition firsthand? How did they perceive Cyrus's rule? The cylinder records the official narrative, yet the lived reality of the people it describes is largely silent, leaving room for interpretation and speculation. More speculative perspectives suggest that the Cyrus cylinder may have had a broader purpose. Was it a symbolic instrument of cosmic order, asserting that Cyrus's rule was not only political, but divinely sanctioned, harmonizing human action with the will of the gods? Could its placement within Babylonian archives have served as a ritualized guarantee of stability meant to reassure priests and citizens that the cosmos itself endorsed this new ruler? The artifact's survival, in that case, is more than chance. It may reflect deliberate care to preserve a document that blended governance, religion, and cosmic symbolism. The cylinder's journey into the modern world adds another layer to its story. Once discovered, it traveled across continents, eventually arriving in the British Museum, where it continues to be studied, displayed, and debated. Its influence extends far beyond ancient Babylon, shaping modern discussions of human rights, tolerance, and the interpretation of history. Yet the artifact retains its mystery. It speaks clearly, yet selectively, leaving many questions unanswered. As we examine the Cyrus cylinder today, we are reminded of the dual nature of artifacts. It is at once a concrete, physical object, clay-shaped and inscribed by human hands, and an enduring narrative, a window into a civilization, a ruler, and a moment in time. And in that window, we see both clarity and ambiguity, statements of policy and glimpses of power, but also absences, omissions, and questions that echo across the centuries. What did Cyrus himself believe? Were his proclamations a reflection of personal conviction, a calculated political strategy, or both? And how many other objects, like this cylinder, once existed to communicate ideals, authority, or divine connection, yet have been lost, leaving only tantalizing hints of the knowledge and intentions of ancient rulers? The Cyrus cylinder, silent yet eloquent, reminds us that history is always a combination of what is recorded and what is hidden, of what survives and what vanishes. It invites us to reflect on the human need to assert, preserve, and justify, to leave behind messages that endure, sometimes far longer than their creators could have imagined, and sometimes still leaving mysteries we may never fully solve. From the baked clay of Babylon that bore the proclamations of Cyrus the Great, we move thousands of miles westward and several millennia back in time to the arid valleys of Peru. Amid the hills near the town of Ica, in the shadow of the Andes, lies a collection of artifacts that challenge our understanding of history. Smooth, dark stones etched with intricate carvings, known today as the Ica Stones. At first glance, they are unassuming. Each stone is relatively small, polished by time or human hand, and etched with images that appear both familiar and utterly impossible. Dinosaurs stride alongside humans. Surgeons perform intricate operations with precision instruments. Astronomers observe the heavens through telescopic devices, and vast landscapes teem with scenes of agriculture, technology, and culture. The detail is astonishing. Each carving executed with care, each line deliberate. The stones first came to wider attention in the 1960s, collected by Dr. Javier Cabrera, a Peruvian physician and avid archaeologist. He amassed thousands of these engraved artifacts, claiming they were remnants of a prehistoric civilization whose knowledge far surpassed what mainstream history attributes to early societies. Mainstream archaeology, however, has largely dismissed the stones as modern hoaxes, products of 20th century craftsmanship intended to fascinate, provoke, or profit. And yet, the sheer number of stones, their varying complexity, and the consistency of certain themes have fueled debate and speculation for decades. What makes the Ica Stones so compelling is the apparent knowledge they depict. Many images show detailed surgical procedures, including cesarean sections, brain surgery, and complex operations on internal organs. Some engravings depict astronomical alignments or star charts. Others show humans interacting with massive creatures that resemble dinosaurs, suggesting a coexistence considered impossible by conventional timelines. The precision and variety of these depictions beg the question: could they be records of actual events, knowledge passed down through generations, or something else entirely? Skeptics argue that the stones are forgeries, created in the mid-20th century by local artisans. Indeed, some of the stones have been traced to modern workshops, and a few local farmers admitted to crafting replicas for sale. Yet Cabrera and other proponents contend that the stones he collected were ancient, found in remote caves or buried beneath layers of soil. If even a fraction of them were authentic, they would upend our understanding of prehistory, suggesting lost civilizations with knowledge and experience far beyond what we currently credit to humanity at that time. Some researchers have speculated that the stones could represent a symbolic or ritual language, a form of storytelling rather than literal history. Could the images be mythic, encoding ancestral memory, cosmology, or moral lessons? Or do they preserve technical knowledge and historical events now lost to time, a silent record of human achievement and interaction with the natural world? And if such a civilization existed, how did it vanish, leaving behind only these enigmatic stones? The carvings themselves are striking for their clarity and composition. Many figures are rendered in dynamic, realistic poses, interacting naturally with animals, tools, and environments. Scenes of agriculture and technology suggest an understanding of irrigation, machinery, and societal organization. Others depict creatures that are scientifically familiar. Some paleontologists note the anatomical accuracy of certain dinosaur depictions. Yet these animals are paired with humans in ways that contradict established evolutionary timelines. Are these depictions the remnants of forgotten knowledge, visionary art, or an elaborate fabrication? Even more intriguing is the apparent consistency across thousands of stones. While skeptics point to the modern origin of some artifacts, the sheer volume and thematic repetition suggest a coherent system, a tradition of imagery that transcends simple novelty or whim. Could the stones have been tools of education, storytelling, or religious ritual? Were they intended to convey knowledge across generations, preserved through tactile, visual means in a society without writing as we know it? The Ica Stones also raise profound questions about perception and bias in archaeology. We tend to interpret ancient artifacts through the lens of established chronology and accepted technological development. But what if human history is far more complex, with lost chapters, forgotten civilizations, and knowledge erased or suppressed by time, disaster, or cultural transformation? The Ica Stones force us to confront the possibility that the past is not as linear or fully known as we imagine. Despite decades of research, examination, and controversy, the stones remain enigmatic. Whether hoax or heritage, their existence challenges assumptions, provoking inquiry into the limits of human knowledge, memory, and imagination. The Ica Stones invite us to ask, what if the tools and knowledge we consider uniquely modern were known in some form, thousands or even tens of thousands of years ago? And if so, where did that knowledge go, and how much of it might still be hidden beneath layers of earth, sand, and forgotten history? In their silence, the stones speak with a clarity that is both compelling and unsettling. They are at once beautiful, perplexing, and provocative. An artifact of human ingenuity, or a mirror reflecting our fascination with what could have been. And as we trace the lines of their carvings, we are left with the same quiet, unresolvable question that shadows every forbidden artifact. What truths about the human story have been lost, and what might still await discovery in the hidden corners of our world? The Ica Stones remain a reminder that history is not only what is recorded, but also what is concealed, forgotten, or misinterpreted. And in contemplating them, we are forced to consider the possibility that the past may be far stranger and far richer than we have ever dared to imagine. From the sun-scorched deserts of Peru, where the enigmatic Ica Stones challenge our understanding of human history, we move northward across continents and millennia to the dense, silent forests of the Ural Mountains in Russia. Here, buried deep in peat bogs that preserve the past with astonishing clarity, archaeologists uncovered one of the oldest known wooden sculptures in the world, the Shigir Idol. The idol is immediately striking. Standing over 5 meters tall in its reconstructed form, it is carved from larch wood and adorned with intricate geometric patterns, spirals, and enigmatic faces. Its surface is darkened by age and peat, yet traces of ochre and other pigments hint at a time when it may have been vividly colored. The sculpture's elongated form, its sharp angular features, and its rhythmic repetitions of carved motifs create an aura that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. To stand before it is to confront a direct connection to humans who lived more than 11,000 years ago, long before the first cities of Mesopotamia or the pyramids of Egypt. The Shigir Idol was discovered in 1890 by miners digging in a peat bog near the Shigir River. Initially, it was believed to be no more than a curiosity, a relic of prehistoric craftsmanship. But radiocarbon dating later revealed a staggering truth. This sculpture dates back to the Mesolithic period, making it the oldest wooden statue ever found. Its longevity is owed to the unique properties of the peat, which preserved the wood in near-perfect condition despite millennia of decay and climate. The idol's purpose remains elusive. Mainstream archaeologists suggest it was a totemic or ritual object, perhaps serving as a marker for sacred space, a representation of deities, or a guardian of territory. The repeated faces and patterns could symbolize ancestral spirits, cosmological cycles, or protective forces. But the precision, scale, and symbolic complexity of the carving raise questions that extend beyond conventional explanation. Who carved it, and why devote such time and effort to this singular object in a period when survival itself was a daily challenge? Equally fascinating is the visual language encoded on its surface. Spirals, zigzags, and concentric circles cover much of the idol, interspersed with vertical grooves and anthropomorphic features. Some researchers interpret these markings as a form of early symbolic communication, a proto-writing that conveyed meaning, myth, or spiritual knowledge. Could these patterns represent stories, genealogies, or instructions understood only by a select group? Or were they intended as a universal language of protection and ritual, comprehensible across generations? The faces carved into the idol are particularly enigmatic. Some are simple, almost abstract, while others are more expressive, with hollow eyes and angular mouths. Their repetition along the length of the statue suggests a continuity of vision, perhaps a representation of ancestors, spirits, or deities. Did the Shigir Idol serve as a bridge between the living and the spiritual realm, a medium through which humans could communicate with unseen forces? Or were the faces symbolic, reflecting a worldview in which humans, nature, and the divine were inseparably intertwined? Beyond its symbolic meaning, the idol challenges assumptions about Mesolithic technology and artistry. The larchwood, particularly long and straight, had to be carefully selected, transported, and worked using stone tools. The precision of the carvings suggests not only skill but also sophisticated planning and deep cultural knowledge. For a society often thought to be primarily hunter-gatherer, the Shigir Idol reveals an ability to manipulate materials, conceptualize abstract forms, and invest extraordinary effort into symbolic expression. Some fringe interpretations propose even more provocative possibilities. Could the idol encode information about astronomy, geography, or ancient knowledge lost to us? Do the geometric patterns represent a cosmological map, a calendar, or instructions for ritual practice? While such theories remain speculative, they underscore the profound mystery of the Shigir Idol, an artifact that speaks across millennia yet refuses to yield its secrets completely. Its discovery in a remote bog also emphasizes the role of chance in preservation. Peat bogs, anaerobic and acidic, create conditions where organic materials like wood, textiles, and even human remains can survive for thousands of years. The Shigir Idol might have perished centuries ago, lost to fire, rot, or human activity, if not for the peculiar chemistry of the bog. This raises the question, how many other objects of similar significance might lie hidden, buried in environments yet to be explored? Today, the Shigir Idol resides in the Sverdlovsk Regional Museum in Yekaterinburg, drawing scholars and visitors alike. It remains a profound reminder that human history is far older and far more complex than often imagined. Unlike stone monuments, which dominate the archaeological record, wooden artifacts are fleeting and rare, yet they can carry extraordinary symbolic weight and technical sophistication. As we contemplate the Shigir Idol, we are left with the same quiet questions that have followed us through other forbidden artifacts. What knowledge did its creators possess? What beliefs, rituals, or stories did it embody? And what does its existence suggest about the capacities of prehistoric societies, often dismissed as simple or primitive? The Shigir Idol stands silently, yet powerfully, a testament to human ingenuity, spiritual imagination, and the persistence of culture across millennia. It reminds us that even in epics we consider distant or primitive, humans were capable of extraordinary abstraction, artistry, and symbolic thought. And in its enigmatic carvings, we sense that much of the past remains hidden, waiting for careful observation, interpretation, and perhaps a willingness to imagine possibilities beyond the conventional timeline of human history. From the frozen forests of the Urals, where the Shigir Idol stands as a silent witness to human imagination and ritual over 11 millennia ago, we return once more to the ancient lands of Egypt, a civilization renowned for its mastery of stone, metal, and symbolic expression. Hidden among the treasures of pharaonic tombs and archaeological collections lies an object far less monumental than a pyramid, yet no less mysterious: the Egyptian schist disk. At first glance, it is deceptively simple. A small circular disk, carved from dark, fine-grained schist, its surface smooth and polished, yet bearing intricate designs etched with meticulous care. The disk has a small central hole, as if intended to be mounted or rotated, surrounded by concentric patterns, geometric motifs, and subtle grooves. Its elegance is understated, but the precision of its craftsmanship hints at a purpose beyond mere decoration. The disk radiates a quiet authority, suggesting it was more than an object of art. It was a tool, a symbol, or perhaps both. The exact origins of the schist disk remain uncertain. Fragments have been found in tombs and ritual sites across Upper Egypt, often in association with burials of high-ranking individuals. Archaeologists speculate it dates to the Old Kingdom, some 4,500 years ago, a period of immense innovation in art, mathematics, and architecture. Yet, despite its antiquity, the disk's purpose remains enigmatic. Was it a ceremonial object, a marker of status, or a practical instrument used for calculations, astronomy, or mechanical observation? Some mainstream interpretations suggest that the disk may have been symbolic, representing the sun, cycles of time, or divine order. Its concentric rings evoke patterns seen elsewhere in Egyptian cosmology: celestial spheres, the cycles of the Nile, and the eternal journey of Ra across the sky. Could this modest disk have been a miniature cosmogram, an object used to convey complex ideas about the universe in tangible form? Or was it a purely practical device intended to measure, calculate, or organize its symbolic features secondary to function? The precision of the carving invites deeper speculation. The central hole and symmetrical grooves suggest the disk may have been designed to rotate, perhaps as part of a larger mechanism or ritual apparatus. If so, what knowledge of motion, measurement, or mechanics did its creators possess? Could it have been a tool for tracking celestial events, timing agricultural cycles, or even recording complex numeric or calendrical data? And if such understanding existed in the Old Kingdom, why do we see so few surviving examples of this technological sophistication in later periods? Adding to the mystery are the patterns themselves. The concentric rings are not simple decorations. They are divided into segments, some resembling numerical or symbolic notation. Could these divisions correspond to units of time, fractions, or measurements? Or do they encode knowledge lost to us, a system of information meant to be understood only by initiates within temple complexes or royal courts? And if so, what wisdom was being preserved, and why in such an unassuming, delicate object, rather than on stone monuments or papyrus scrolls? The schist disk also raises questions about perception and the scope of ancient Egyptian ingenuity. We often imagine technological advancement as linear: stone tools to bronze, papyrus to codices, simple mechanisms to engines. Yet, artifacts like this disk challenge that assumption, suggesting a capacity for abstract reasoning, measurement, and possibly mechanical understanding far earlier than conventionally acknowledged. Could the Egyptians have developed instruments that combined ritual, mathematics, and astronomy, leaving only fragments for us to puzzle over? Some speculative perspectives propose even more provocative ideas. Might the disk have functioned as a component of an unknown apparatus, similar to a gear or turntable used for observation or calculation? Could it have encoded astronomical cycles, tracked planetary movements, or even served as a mnemonic device for complex rituals or teachings? While there is no direct evidence for such advanced use, the combination of precision, symmetry, and apparent functionality invites these questions. Even its survival is remarkable. Schist is a durable stone, yet over millennia, small objects are prone to breakage, erosion, or repurposing. The fact that this disk, and others like it, have persisted suggests careful handling, reverence, or deliberate preservation. It hints at a culture that valued not only monumental construction, but also the subtle, sophisticated recording and manipulation of knowledge. What other small artifacts, designed for understanding or observation, might have been lost? Objects whose absence leaves entire chapters of human ingenuity invisible to us? Today, the Egyptian schist disk is studied quietly, often overshadowed by the grandeur of pyramids, temples, and monumental statues. Yet in its modest form, it encapsulates the same mysteries that have intrigued us throughout this exploration. The persistence of knowledge, the blending of practical and symbolic function, and the enduring question of what ancient civilizations truly understood about their world. As we examine the disk, we are drawn into a space where art, science, and ritual intersect. What secrets were inscribed in its grooves? What systems of thought guided its creation? And how much of human understanding, carefully preserved, has been hidden in objects too small, too subtle, or too overlooked to capture the attention of history until now? The Egyptian schist disk stands as a quiet testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the capacity for abstraction. It reminds us that even in objects that appear simple, profound knowledge can be encoded, knowledge that may challenge our assumptions about ancient civilization, its sophistication, and the mysteries still waiting to be uncovered. From the carefully carved precision of the Egyptian schist disk, where small objects whisper of ancient understanding, we journey across continents and centuries to a dry, sun-baked landscape in California, the rugged hills near Olancha in the high desert of the Coso Range. Amid this stark terrain, an artifact surfaced in the 1960s that has confounded collectors, geologists, and historians alike. The Coso Artifact, a seemingly ordinary object that refuses to fit comfortably within the timeline of human technological development. The object itself is deceptively simple in appearance, a small, roughly spherical item, partially encased in a hardened concretion of rock and mineral deposits. At first glance, it could be mistaken for a geode or a natural concretion formed by the slow accumulation of minerals over millennia. But when carefully cleaned and examined, a startling detail emerges. Embedded within the concretion is a metallic core, apparently machined, cylindrical, and threaded, resembling components of modern spark plugs or electrical devices. The juxtaposition of human-like craftsmanship and the surrounding ancient mineral matrix immediately raises questions. How did this artifact come to exist, and how old could it truly be? The Coso Artifact was discovered in 1961 by Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell, 3 rock collectors combing the desert floor. Encased in a nodule of hardened clay and quartz, the object appeared to have been fossilized, suggesting an age of hundreds of thousands of years according to some assessments of the concretion. Mainstream geologists initially proposed natural explanations, iron pyrite or fossilized plant material, but the metallic core remained perplexing, precise in its manufacture and unlike anything naturally formed. Skeptics argue that the artifact is a modern spark plug, likely from the 1920s, simply encased in a mineral concretion formed over decades rather than millennia. Yet proponents of the artifact's mysterious origin point to several anomalies. The concretion appeared to be deeply embedded. The core exhibits machining marks inconsistent with early 20th century technology, and other similar objects have been claimed to exist in various collections, suggesting a pattern rather than an isolated curiosity. Could this small object be a remnant of technology far older than our textbooks admit, lost to time and buried beneath desert sands? The implications of the Coso Artifact are provocative. If the object truly predates modern manufacturing, it would challenge fundamental assumptions about the history of technology. Could advanced civilizations or forgotten cultures have existed tens or even hundreds of thousands of years ago, crafting metallic devices with precision tools? And if so, why is there no additional corroborating archaeological record? The artifact sits at the intersection of evidence and speculation, demanding careful examination and a willingness to entertain possibilities that mainstream history tends to dismiss. Some researchers have explored alternative explanations, considering the artifact as a time capsule of human ingenuity, a relic of unknown experimentation, or even the product of natural processes not fully understood. Could it have been part of a larger mechanism? Perhaps a tool or component whose function is now lost to us? Could mineralization processes have preserved and concealed this technology for millennia, creating the illusion of anachronism? Or is it a warning of how easily context can mislead, turning ordinary objects into enigmas when removed from their environment? The physical construction of the object raises further questions. The metallic core is smooth, symmetrical, and precisely formed, with threading that implies rotational assembly. Such craftsmanship suggests knowledge of metallurgy, machining, and engineering far beyond what could reasonably exist in the surrounding geological context. Could ancient people have experimented with mechanical devices? And if so, what else might they have built, only to be lost to time, natural disasters, or the erosion of civilization itself? Equally compelling is the artifact's provenance. Found in the arid California desert, a region known for its complex geology, mineral deposits, and evidence of prehistoric human habitation, The Coso Artifact seems at once out of place and deeply connected to the Earth itself. Its concretion has been described as unusually dense, seemingly fossilized, leading some to suggest that it may have been buried for tens of thousands of years. This age, if accurate, raises a paradox: advanced technology in a prehistoric context, leaving behind a singular, isolated clue. How do we reconcile such an anomaly with what we know of human history? The Coso Artifact also invites reflection on the limits of observation and interpretation. How many objects of significance have been overlooked, misclassified, or discarded because they did not fit prevailing narratives? Could our understanding of technological history be incomplete, shaped more by convention than by evidence? And how many artifacts, buried beneath deserts, forests, or oceans, lie waiting to disrupt our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient peoples? Today, the artifact continues to provoke debate, curiosity, and wonder. Whether it is a modern spark plug turned mineralized, a misinterpreted natural formation, or a genuine relic of lost technology, the Coso Artifact reminds us that the past is never fully knowable. Even a small, unassuming object can carry profound implications, bridging gaps in time and challenging the boundaries of what we consider possible. As we examine the Coso Artifact, we are confronted with the same quiet questions that have followed us through every forbidden object. What did ancient humans truly know? What skills, techniques, or knowledge have been lost, obscured, or forgotten? And what might still be hidden, waiting to be discovered, to expand our understanding of human history and the depths of human ingenuity? The Coso Artifact remains a silent enigma, a whisper from the past that refuses to be ignored. It is a testament to curiosity, to the persistence of evidence even when it challenges orthodoxy, and to the enduring mystery of how much of our world and our history remains hidden beneath layers of earth, stone, and time. From the sun-baked deserts of California, where the Coso Artifact challenges our understanding of ancient technology, we now turn south across the high plains and rugged landscapes of Bolivia to the shores of Lake Titicaca. Amid the ruins near the village of Chua, an extraordinary object surfaced in the 1950s, a shallow stone vessel that has captivated scholars and enthusiasts alike, the Fuente Magna bowl. At first glance, it appears deceptively simple. A modest bowl carved from a dense gray stone, its form smooth and unassuming, yet possessing an elegance that hints at deliberate craftsmanship. What sets it apart is not merely its shape, but the inscriptions etched along its inner and outer surfaces, symbols that bear a striking resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform and Proto-Sumerian pictographs. The carvings are precise, ordered, and clearly intentional, each mark conveying meaning, yet the context of their creation remains profoundly mysterious. The bowl came to light when local laborers uncovered it near ancient ruins, reportedly while working on irrigation canals. It eventually drew the attention of archaeologists and linguists, who marveled at the presence of symbols strikingly similar to those found in Mesopotamia, thousands of kilometers away and separated by centuries. How could a vessel from the Andean highlands bear writing so closely resembling that of the Fertile Crescent, a region more than 7,000 kilometers distant? Mainstream archaeologists have approached the Fuente Magna bowl with caution. Some suggest that the inscriptions might be misinterpreted, perhaps local symbols coincidentally resembling cuneiform. Others propose that the bowl represents contact between early Andean cultures and Old World civilizations, a hypothesis often dismissed for lacking corroborating evidence. Yet the artifact's existence continues to provoke fascination because it sits at the intersection of geography, chronology, and linguistic mystery, a small object capable of rewriting assumptions about cultural exchange in the ancient world. The bowl itself is a marvel of craftsmanship. The stone is hard, dense, and difficult to carve, yet the inscriptions are finely etched, their lines precise and uniform. The interior bears circular grooves that suggest careful planning, perhaps symbolic representation or functional design. Could the vessel have been used for ritual purposes, as a ceremonial offering, or as a repository for sacred substances? And if so, what knowledge or meaning did the inscriptions carry for those who used it? Scholars and enthusiasts alike have speculated that the Fuente Magna bowl represents evidence of transoceanic contact long before Columbus. Some argue that seafaring or migratory peoples may have traversed vast distances, carrying with them language, art, and technological knowledge. Could Sumerians or related civilizations have reached the high Andes, leaving behind traces in stone that endured for millennia? If so, what was the purpose of such journeys, and what else might remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered? Equally intriguing is the content of the inscriptions themselves. While resembling cuneiform, they also display unique features, suggesting adaptation to local culture or a fusion of symbol systems. Were these marks meant to convey practical information, record transactions, or serve as ritual language? Or could they represent a shared symbolic lexicon, evidence of human ingenuity converging independently across vast distances? The answers remain elusive, as the bowl exists in isolation, with no contemporaneous texts or artifacts to provide context. The discovery of the Fuente Magna bowl raises profound questions about the limits of our historical understanding. How many other artifacts, small, easily overlooked, or hidden in remote locations, might testify to connections we have yet to uncover? Could ancient civilizations have communicated, traveled, or shared knowledge in ways that challenge modern assumptions about geography, technology, and chronology? And if so, how much of human history has been lost, buried, or misinterpreted through the lens of conventional archaeology? Some speculative perspectives suggest that the bowl might have served as a teaching tool, a ritual instrument, or even a vessel for encoding cosmological knowledge. Its concave form, precise carvings, and inscriptions could imply that it was intended to interact with light, liquids, or other materials to produce symbolic or functional effects. Could the Fuente Magna bowl have been more than an object of art, a tool that bridged the tangible and intellectual worlds of its creators, carrying knowledge across both time and space? The artifact's survival is also remarkable. Stone vessels are durable, yet exposure to environmental elements, human activity, and geological change often leads to loss or degradation. That the Fuente Magna bowl remains intact, with inscriptions still legible, suggests deliberate care and reverence by those who created it, or by those who preserved it across generations. It stands as a reminder of the fragility of human knowledge and the extraordinary lengths ancient peoples took to record, transmit, and protect what they considered important. As we contemplate the Fuente Magna bowl, we are invited to consider the broader implications of its existence. What knowledge was carried in this small, unassuming object? What journeys, whether physical, cultural, or intellectual, does it represent? And how much of the human story remains hidden in places we have yet to fully explore, in artifacts that defy conventional timelines and challenge accepted narratives? The bowl endures as a silent witness, enigmatic yet eloquent, bridging continents and civilizations across millennia. It reminds us that even the smallest objects can carry profound mysteries, whispering of connections, knowledge, and histories that may forever elude our understanding. And in its careful inscriptions and enduring form, we are left with the same persistent question that accompanies every forbidden artifact. What other truths about humanity's past are still waiting to be discovered, hidden just beyond the reach of our current understanding? From the high Andes and the enigmatic inscriptions of the Fuente Magna bowl, we turn once again to the deep past of humanity. this time to the rugged cliffs and cave systems of western France, where a small, unassuming artifact has quietly challenged our understanding of the origins of symbolic thought: the Mask of La Roche-Cotard. Discovered in 1975 in the Mousterian layers of the La Roche-Cotard cave near the Loire Valley, this artifact is a fragment of flint, naturally shaped but intentionally modified by human hands. Its most striking feature is a single, deliberate notch and a combination of natural grooves and incisions that create the semblance of a face, complete with an eye hole. At roughly 75,000 years old, it dates back to the Neanderthal period, making it one of the oldest known examples of representational art created by a hominin species long thought incapable of abstract or symbolic thought. At first glance, it could be dismissed as a coincidence of nature, a flint fragment with a peculiar groove. But close inspection reveals clear signs of human intervention. The edges of the stone were shaped and smoothed, incisions carefully carved, the eye deliberately created to suggest intentionality. This was no random flake of rock. It was a tool, a symbol, an expression of awareness and imagination. Neanderthals, often overshadowed by Homo sapiens in popular imagination, were capable of creating something that transcended the purely functional. The mask's purpose remains elusive. Did it serve as a ritual object, worn or held in ceremonial contexts? Was it a form of personal expression, an early attempt to capture the human visage? Or perhaps a symbolic token imbued with social or spiritual meaning? Some researchers suggest it could have been a proto-mask used in performance, ritual, or initiation, while others propose it was a teaching tool or a representation of identity, possibly even a way to communicate ideas beyond the spoken word. What makes the Mask of La Roche-Cotard so compelling is the depth of cognitive sophistication it implies. The Neanderthals who shaped it were hunter-gatherers, navigating harsh Ice Age environments, yet they paused to create a symbolic object that required foresight, dexterity, and abstract thinking. The mask challenges our assumptions about linear progression in human culture, reminding us that innovation, imagination, and symbolic thought did not belong exclusively to Homo sapiens. The flint itself adds another layer of intrigue. Selected for its natural shape and suitability for modification, it demonstrates that the creators were not merely reacting to their environment. They were making conscious aesthetic and functional choices. Could the mask have been part of a broader artistic or ritual tradition, much of which has been lost to time? Or was it a singular creation, an isolated expression of an individual mind capable of abstraction, introspection, and creativity? The mask also raises profound questions about Neanderthal society and culture. For decades, the prevailing narrative depicted Neanderthals as primitive, purely survival-driven, and devoid of symbolic thought. The Mask of La Roche-Cotard, and other recent discoveries of pigments, ornaments, and carvings, forces a reassessment of that view. Did Neanderthals possess a form of symbolic communication, storytelling, or ritual practice comparable to early Homo sapiens? Could this small flint fragment hint at complex social or spiritual structures, long erased from the archaeological record? Some speculative interpretations suggest that the mask could have had multiple functions, combining symbolic, social, and practical use. Perhaps it was used in shamanic rituals in which individuals assumed the persona of spirits, ancestors, or animals. Could it have served as a conduit between the material and immaterial, the living and the unseen? Or was it a personal object, a reflection of individual identity, creativity, or cognitive experimentation? The ambiguity of its use only deepens its mystery. The context of the mask's discovery further emphasizes its significance. Buried within a cave layer associated with Mousterian tools and hearths, it was clearly part of a Neanderthal occupation. The surrounding artifacts, stone tools, remains of hunted game, and evidence of fire use suggest a society capable of planning, communication, and cooperation. Against this backdrop, the mask becomes more than an isolated curiosity. It is evidence that Neanderthals were not only adapting to their environment, but also contemplating, expressing, and possibly communicating abstract concepts. The Mask of La Roche-Cotard stands as a testament to the cognitive and artistic capabilities of a species often underestimated in the history of human evolution. Its survival through tens of thousands of years, preserved in the cool, stable environment of a cave, is a reminder of the fragility and rarity of early human artifacts. How many other expressions of Neanderthal creativity have been lost to erosion, decay, or misidentification? And how might these small remnants reshape our understanding of who we were and who we share ancestry with? As we examine the mask, we are confronted with the same enduring questions that thread through every forbidden artifact. What knowledge, creativity, or insight has been lost to time? What cognitive leaps did our predecessors, whether Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, achieve long before they appear in mainstream history? And how many artifacts remain hidden, quietly challenging our assumptions about intelligence, culture, and the boundaries of what it means to be human? The Mask of La Roche-Cotard is quiet, unassuming, yet profoundly evocative. In its carved grooves and singular eye, it connects us to a mind that lived tens of thousands of years ago, reminding us that symbolic thought, imagination, and the desire to create are timeless human traits. And in contemplating this ancient fragment, we are left with the same silent, compelling question that follows every forbidden artifact. What else lies buried in the depths of prehistory, waiting to reveal the unexpected complexity of our shared past? From the caves of Neanderthals in western France, where the Mask of La Roche-Cotard whispers of symbolic thought tens of thousands of years ago, we now journey to the rolling plains and ancient hills of Central Europe. Here, among the forests and river valleys of what is now Saxony-Anhalt, Germany, a small bronze artifact emerged in 1999 that has captivated archaeologists, astronomers, and historians alike: the Nebra Sky Disk. At first glance, it is deceptively modest, a circular bronze disk, only 32 centimeters in diameter, with a patina of green corrosion, its surface adorned with gold symbols. But its design is extraordinary. 2 arcs on the edges suggest the paths of the sun or moon. A cluster of dots forms what appears to be the Pleiades star cluster, and a golden circle in the center evokes the sun, or perhaps the full moon. The disk radiates both beauty and mystery, its simple geometry concealing a depth of astronomical sophistication that continues to intrigue researchers. The disk was discovered accidentally by treasure hunters using metal detectors on the Middelburg Hill, a place long associated with ritual activity and burial mounds from the Bronze Age. It was initially surrounded by controversy, both legal and academic, as questions arose regarding its provenance and authenticity. Yet scientific analysis confirmed its age, approximately 3,600 years old, dating to the early Bronze Age. Its combination of bronze metallurgy, gold inlay, and astronomical representation positions it among the earliest known concrete representations of the cosmos in human history. What makes the Nebra Sky Disk extraordinary is not merely its age or craftsmanship, but the level of knowledge it represents. Archaeologists and archaeoastronomers have demonstrated that the disk encodes accurate astronomical information. The angles of the arcs correspond to the solstices, enabling the tracking of solar cycles. The Pleiades cluster may have been used to align agricultural calendars or ritual events with the movements of stars. In an era without telescopes, clocks, or modern instruments, Bronze Age humans were able to observe, abstract, and encode the heavens in a tangible, portable form. Yet many questions remain. Why create such a disk, and what purpose did it serve? Was it a ceremonial object, a teaching aid, or a practical tool for early astronomers and priests? Some propose that it functioned as a navigation instrument, aligning solar and lunar observations with the landscape. Others suggest a ritual role, connecting human activity to the cycles of the cosmos, offering both practical guidance and symbolic meaning. Could it have been a combination of all these functions? A technological, cultural, and spiritual nexus, bridging observation, understanding, and belief? The Nebra Sky Disk also challenges assumptions about the transmission of knowledge in prehistoric Europe. Bronze Age societies are often considered technologically limited, yet the disk implies an awareness of celestial mechanics, careful observation over generations, and sophisticated metallurgical skills. How did such knowledge emerge, and how widely was it shared? Could other artifacts, now lost or yet to be discovered, reveal that early Europeans possessed a far more advanced understanding of the cosmos than previously imagined? Adding to the intrigue is the disk's context. It was found near burial mounds, stone circles, and other ritual sites, suggesting it was part of a broader cultural and religious framework. The integration of practical astronomical observation with symbolic and ceremonial use hints at a worldview in which human activity, agricultural cycles, and cosmic order were inseparably linked. In such a context, the Nebra Sky Disk was more than a tool. It was a statement, a tangible manifestation of knowledge, belief, and human ingenuity. Some researchers have explored even more provocative interpretations. Could the disk represent a system of knowledge shared across Europe, a precursor to scientific observation and measurement that would not reappear until millennia later? Might it encode complex calendrical cycles, lunar-solar interactions, or proto-scientific principles in a form both artistic and functional? While some of these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the profound implications of the disk, that humans, even in the Bronze Age, were capable of abstract thought, precise observation, and symbolic representation far beyond what we often assume. The craftsmanship itself reinforces the disk's enigmatic nature. The bronze had to be smelted and shaped, the gold cut and inlaid with precision, the arcs and symbols carefully measured. Each element suggests deliberate intention, an understanding of both material properties and cosmic patterns. The Nebra Sky Disk is at once an artifact of art, science, and ritual, a convergence that challenges modern distinctions between these domains. As with many forbidden artifacts, the disk also raises questions about what has been lost to history. How many other instruments, maps, or symbolic representations of the cosmos have vanished, leaving only traces in folklore or fragmented artifacts? How much knowledge was encoded in objects that, unlike the Nebra Sky Disk, failed to survive the millennia? The disk's survival is a rare gift, allowing us a glimpse into a worldview that combined observation, ritual, and symbolic thought in ways both practical and profound. The Nebra Sky Disk remains an evocative, silent testament to human curiosity and ingenuity. It connects us to Bronze Age minds who looked up at the same stars we see today and sought to understand, measure, and integrate them into their lives. In its bronze and gold, we perceive not only a technical achievement, but a philosophical one, a desire to know, to order, and to communicate knowledge across generations. As we contemplate the disk, we are left with the enduring questions that accompany every forbidden artifact. How much knowledge has been lost to time? How did early humans achieve insights that seem so advanced for their age? And what other objects, waiting to be uncovered, might further expand our understanding of human creativity, observation, and the origins of science? The Nebra Sky Disk shines quietly across the millennia, a symbol of human curiosity, ingenuity, and our timeless desire to map the unknown. and in its mysterious circles and stars, we are reminded that even the smallest, most enigmatic objects can transform our understanding of the world and our place within the cosmos. From the celestial patterns etched on the Nebra Sky Disk, where Bronze Age Europeans sought to understand the heavens, we now travel to the fertile plains of ancient Mesopotamia, a land cradled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, amidst the sprawling ruins of Babylon, a series of enigmatic artifacts emerged that reveal not only the sophistication of early civilization, but also a subtle enigma that has puzzled scholars for generations. The Kudurru stones. These stones, often overlooked amid the grandeur of ziggurats and palaces, are boundary markers, etched with inscriptions and symbolic reliefs. At first glance, a Kudurru appears as a simple, upright slab of durable stone, limestone, diorite, or basalt, carefully carved, yet their surfaces tell a story far richer than mere land delineation. Each stone bears a combination of cuneiform writing, geometric patterns, and intricate symbols of the gods, stars, and celestial phenomena. They are at once administrative records, legal documents, and symbolic objects, bridging the earthly and the divine. Kudurrus were used primarily to record land grants, often bestowed by kings upon favored subjects, priests, or temples. The inscriptions detail boundaries, obligations, and occasionally curses for anyone who dared violate the decree. Yet beyond their administrative function, these stones hint at something more profound. The repeated inclusion of astral symbols, sun, moon, stars, and constellations, suggests that the land itself was seen as part of a cosmic order. Could these stones, in their intricate carvings, encode knowledge of celestial movements or cycles, blending law, geography, and astronomy into a single medium? Archaeologists have long marveled at the precision and consistency of these artifacts. The cuneiform inscriptions are meticulously executed, requiring a mastery of language, mathematics, and stonework. The symbols of deities and astral elements are not mere decoration. They follow conventions and patterns that imply ritual significance and societal understanding. Each Kudurru is both a practical tool and a symbolic object, a tangible intersection of law, religion, and possibly astronomical knowledge. Yet, the enigmatic qualities of these stones have prompted questions beyond their historical context. Some researchers suggest that the astral symbols may serve as more than ceremonial decoration. Could they represent an early understanding of celestial cycles, planetary alignments, or predictive frameworks for agricultural or ritual calendars? If so, how much of this knowledge was deliberately encoded, intended for both human and divine audiences? Were these stones purely terrestrial documents? Or did they also act as keys to understanding the cosmos, reflecting a worldview in which earthly authority and celestial order were inseparable? Further intrigue arises from the apparent selection of symbols on each stone. Gods, animals, stars, and geometric motifs are deliberately combined, often in ways that are not immediately decipherable. The repetition of certain figures and patterns hints at a symbolic language or codified system, one whose full meaning may be lost to us. Could the Kudurru stones have functioned as a mnemonic device, assisting priests or officials in maintaining the memory of complex knowledge spanning law, ritual, and astronomy? Or might they conceal esoteric or ritualistic knowledge, accessible only to those initiated into the inner workings of Babylonian culture? The context of their discovery adds to their fascination. Many Kudurrus were found in temples, sanctuaries, or sites of civic authority, often buried or set apart, preserved intentionally. This deliberate placement implies reverence and significance beyond mere administrative utility. Were they intended to witness the transaction between humans and gods, to sanctify legal acts, or to invoke divine protection over property and lineage? Or could they serve a dual purpose, simultaneously recording human affairs and encoding knowledge about the stars and time itself? The craftsmanship of the Kudurrus is equally remarkable. Carving durable stone with such precision, incorporating both language and symbolic imagery, would have required artisans of exceptional skill and knowledge. The effort expended suggests that these stones were highly valued, possibly imbued with power and meaning beyond the literal content of the inscriptions. Their survival through millennia is a testament not only to their physical durability, but also to their enduring cultural and symbolic resonance. Yet despite centuries of study, many mysteries endure. Why are the astral symbols arranged in specific patterns? Did the combination of religious iconography and celestial observation serve as an early form of record-keeping for cosmological events? And if the Kudurrus encode knowledge about the heavens, how was this information interpreted, transmitted, and applied within Babylonian society? The stones invite speculation, but careful analysis is required to balance documented history with the subtle hints of what might remain hidden. The Babylonian Kudurru stones, in their blend of legal, symbolic, and potentially astronomical elements, remind us that the ancients often integrated domains we now treat separately: law, ritual, and observation of the natural and celestial world. They prompt reflection on the sophistication of early civilizations and the subtle ways in which knowledge, authority, and cosmic awareness were intertwined. As we examine these artifacts, we are left with the same compelling questions that accompany every forbidden object. What knowledge was encoded and preserved in ways we no longer fully understand? How much insight into early astronomy, ritual practice, or social order remains concealed within stone, waiting for discovery? And what other artifacts, still buried beneath the sands and ruins of Mesopotamia, might yet expand our understanding of the ingenuity and worldview of humanity's earliest civilizations? The Kudurru stones endure as quiet witnesses, etched with the marks of law, devotion, and possibly the cosmos itself. They challenge us to consider the interplay of human intellect, ritual practice, and celestial observation in antiquity, inviting us to wonder how much of our shared history remains hidden in plain sight, waiting for those willing to look deeper. From the silent faces of Ghazal, buried with secrets we may never fully understand, we move to another enigma, an object far smaller but no less puzzling. Where the statues spoke through haunting expressions, this artifact communicates in another way, through its very precision. It was unearthed in the ruins of Nimrud, the ancient Assyrian capital that once dominated the Mesopotamian plain of northern Iraq. Among palaces adorned with colossal winged bulls and walls inscribed with the victories of kings, archaeologists in the mid-19th century discovered something that did not quite fit: a small oval-shaped piece of rock crystal, carefully ground and polished, resembling what we today would call a lens. At just over an inch in diameter, the object may seem modest, almost unremarkable when compared to the grandeur of its surroundings. Yet when held to the light, its surface bends and refracts in a way unmistakably similar to the lenses used in magnifying glasses. Known now as the Nimrud lens, or the Layard lens after Austin. Henry Layard, who found it in 1850, this artifact has puzzled researchers for decades. What was its purpose? Was it merely decorative, an ornament set into furniture or jewelry? Or was it something more? A tool of vision, crafted with intention, used perhaps to magnify the world. The Assyrians were master craftsmen, skilled in carving, metallurgy, and engineering. It is not impossible that they understood how to shape crystal into a convex surface. But the level of precision raises questions. The lens is not perfect by modern optical standards. Its surface is slightly uneven, its magnification limited, yet it does magnify. Was that a coincidence, or was it deliberate? Some scholars have argued that the lens may have been used as a simple magnifying glass, aiding craftsmen in carving intricate detail into ivory or stone. Others have suggested it might have been employed to start fires by focusing sunlight, much like a primitive burning glass. Both are plausible. Both fit within the realm of possibility for the time. But then there are the more speculative ideas. A few researchers have noted that the Assyrian palace walls are filled with reliefs of extraordinary detail, down to patterns on fabrics and inscriptions so fine that, without magnification, they are nearly invisible. Could artisans have used a lens to achieve such precision? Was the Nimrud lens a tool that extended the limits of human sight, centuries, if not millennia, before the invention of optical instruments in Europe? And then there are theories that wander further. Some suggest the lens could have been part of a more complex optical system, perhaps even the earliest attempt at a telescope. A bold claim, certainly, but one that raises a tantalizing question. If ancient peoples glimpsed the heavens in greater clarity than we imagine, what might they have seen? How might such visions have shaped their myths, their gods, their sense of the cosmos? Others point to the mysteries of Assyrian astronomy. The Assyrians and their Babylonian neighbors were renowned for their study of the stars. They charted planetary movements, recorded eclipses, and developed one of the earliest known forms of celestial science. Could a tool like the Nimrud lens have aided them in this pursuit? Or does its existence suggest a depth of technological knowledge we do not usually attribute to the ancient Near East? Skeptics remind us of simpler explanations. The lens, they say, is not polished with the precision required for advanced optics. Its distortions are obvious, its craftsmanship imperfect. It could just as easily have been part of a decorative inlay, its function more symbolic than practical. Perhaps the crystal was valued not for what it could reveal, but for the way it caught the light, glimmering like a captured drop of water in the heart of a desert kingdom. And yet, the mystery lingers, because the lens does work, however crudely. It does magnify, and when placed beside the astonishing mathematical and astronomical achievements of Mesopotamia, it is difficult not to wonder, was this merely an accident of craftsmanship or a clue to a forgotten science? Consider the psychological weight of such a tool. To look at the world through a lens is to see differently, to perceive hidden details, to pierce the ordinary. For the artisans of Nimrud, was this a moment of revelation? Did the lens allow them to examine the fine grain of stone, the delicate weave of cloth, the minute carving of cuneiform signs? Or did it serve as a symbol of vision itself, a royal emblem of clarity, foresight, and divine insight? We cannot know for certain. What remains is a single fragment of crystal now resting in the British Museum, divorced from its original context. It is both mundane and extraordinary, an object that fits neatly into a hand, yet carries within it the potential to rewrite what we believe about ancient technology. When we gaze upon the Nimrud lens today, we are confronted with the same question that echoes through so many ancient mysteries. Are we looking at a tool that was simply ahead of its time? Or are we looking at evidence of knowledge that once existed and was lost, a reminder that the past may be richer, stranger, and more advanced than we dare imagine? And if such a lens was crafted over 2,500 years ago, how many other instruments, shattered, buried, or forgotten, remain hidden beneath the sands of Mesopotamia, waiting to challenge the boundaries of our understanding? The Atlantean Orichalcum ingots lie beneath the waves, in fragments scattered across a sunken city that refuses to yield its secrets. Imagine a seabed glimmering with the ghostly shine of metal unlike any commonly known to human history. These ingots, reportedly discovered in the ruins believed to be the remnants of Atlantis, shimmer with a reddish-gold hue that seems almost otherworldly, catching even the faintest glint of sunlight filtering through the ocean's surface. Their presence hints at a civilization both technologically advanced and deeply enigmatic, a society whose knowledge of metallurgy may have far exceeded anything known in the ancient world. Orichalcum itself is a substance shrouded in the haze of legend. The earliest mentions appear in the works of Plato, who described it as a metal second only to gold in value, forming the inner walls and adornments of Atlantis's grand temples. Unlike gold, which we can melt, shape, and trace through known chemical reactions, Orichalcum seems to defy easy classification. Its composition remains a matter of debate. Some suggest it was a natural alloy of copper and gold. Others believe it contained traces of elements that modern science cannot easily reconcile with historical metallurgy. There is no surviving sample confirmed to be from Plato's Atlantis. Yet, the ingots recovered from various shipwrecks and underwater excavations bear striking similarities to his description, provoking wonder and skepticism in equal measure. The mystery deepens when one examines their physical characteristics. Orichalcum ingots are often described as unusually heavy, with a density that seems to fluctuate depending on the source. Under certain conditions, their surfaces appear to glow faintly, a subtle luminescence that vanishes when removed from water. Could this have been the result of a chemical reaction with seawater, or something more esoteric? An energy imbued into the metal by its ancient creators? Scholars of antiquity have suggested that these peculiarities may have inspired myths of metals with mystical properties, metals that could harness power, protect against decay, or even influence the mind. Historians argue that if Orichalcum did indeed exist as a distinct material, its origins and production techniques are lost to us. There are hints that it may have been an alloy involving copper, gold, and an unidentified third component. Some metallurgists point to traces of platinum or rare elements such as zinc or tin in recovered ingots, though the analysis is complicated by centuries of corrosion. Here lies a tension between the historical and the empirical. Mainstream archaeology searches for traceable, reproducible evidence, while the metal itself seems to resist classification, teasing with anomalies and incomplete data. The narrative grows more enigmatic when we explore the locations where these ingots have been found. Many were recovered off the coast of Sicily in the waters surrounding the ancient city of Gela, or near the famed island of Santorini. Shipwrecks dating to the Bronze Age yielded ingots stacked like treasure in wooden holds, yet none correspond to known trade patterns of the time. How could a metal of such value vanish almost entirely from the historical record, only to appear sporadically, as if the sea itself were guarding a secret? Could these ingots represent remnants of a civilization whose influence extended beyond the Mediterranean, one that Plato described only in allegory yet may have had a real, tangible presence? Speculative theories have flourished around these discoveries. Some suggest that Orichalcum was not merely a metal, but part of an ancient technology, conductive, perhaps even capable of channeling forms of energy that ancient peoples understood in ways we no longer do. Comparisons are often drawn to the legendary power stones of various lost civilizations, or to artifacts rumored to manipulate magnetism or light. Could the reddish gold ingots have been components in devices, temples, or machines whose purpose we can scarcely imagine? The line between legend and archaeology blurs as one contemplates these possibilities, yet the allure of discovery keeps the debate alive. Even the linguistic history of the term orichalcum adds to its mystery. Plato's Greek references suggest a word meaning mountain copper or ore copper, yet no known metal of the classical world entirely fits this description. Roman texts later mention orichalcum coins minted in Carthage, but these coins appear to be an attempt to replicate orichalcum's fabled properties, not a continuation of its original production. Over the centuries, alchemists, philosophers, and explorers have searched for it in vain. often attributing magical or spiritual properties to the metal. Could it have been lost because its production required knowledge and resources that perished with Atlantis, or because the metal itself was too enigmatic to replicate reliably? The Atlantean Orichalcum ingots continued to defy modern understanding, residing somewhere between the concrete and the conjectural. Their discovery in underwater sites offers tantalizing glimpses into a past that is both documented and obscured, a past where human ingenuity and perhaps something more extraordinary intersected. Each ingot recovered evokes questions rather than answers. Was Orichalcum purely ornamental, or did it serve a function we cannot yet conceive? Were these ingots currency, energy sources, or ceremonial objects? And above all, is there more to the story lying silently beneath the waves, awaiting those patient enough to uncover it? As we leave the waters of the Mediterranean and turn our gaze to the next forbidden artifact, the Orichalcum ingots remain an enigma, their luster whispering of lost civilizations, advanced craftsmanship, and the enduring human fascination with the unknown. Perhaps one day, with careful study and a measure of luck, science will illuminate their secrets. Until then, they lie submerged in both water and time, a gleaming reminder that some mysteries are never fully solved, and that some truths may be deliberately concealed, waiting for discovery in the deep.